Since forming in 1934, the Anoka County Historical Society has collected thousands of items that tell stories of the past. Many of those are on display for the public, but most are hidden from public view. Items stored away can't stay that way without the risk of damage. We found out what it takes to preserve history, one artifact at a time.
Sometimes things in the past were very, very different from how they are now, and other times they're not really all that different at all. It's important for us to know that, and we can't know that if we don't have all of the things that tell those stories.
Reminders of the past fill the Anoka County History Center, embodied by wood, cloth, and metal. Current exhibits featuring soldiers, brides, and teddy bears tell stories, but most of the museum's pages go unseen.
This is our collections area back here, and so most of our collections actually live in this space. These are some of our quilts you can see in the boxes. Up above you'll see we have our framed objects collection.
Anoka County Historical Society archivist Audra Hilsey spends much of her time preserving what's often packed away.
We're trying to look through everything and make sure that it is stored the way it should be. There are things that we know now that weren't known in the past that we can make those updates. So it's a big project to actually go through the entire collection and try and look at everything and make sure that everything is stored as it should be. Preservation is kind of about holding back time. It's about keeping things in their current condition. Hopefully that's a good condition.
Not every item was kept with its future in mind.
We actually keep this dress just as an example of what can happen to fabric if it's not kind of kept in the right condition. The silk is very, very shattered. This silk was probably bleached very heavily when this dress was originally made because it was a wedding dress and they wanted it to be very white. But the bleaching, of course, is quite harsh on silk.
Others saw kinder treatment through time.
This is another wedding dress. You see we've got it padded out with the acid-free tissue to sort of help preserve the shape. And then we have it carefully folded in the acid-free box and then covered with the tissue. There's no additional acid that we're exposing this dress to, and then with the box closed and on the shelf, we're also blocking out a lot of that long-term light exposure. What I have here are 3 original Civil War discharge papers for soldiers who came from Anoka County. This had been folded a lot and was coming apart, and so someone thought, hey, I'll tape it together. It's a perfectly natural instinct. It's not really a great idea, though, in terms of long-term preservation.
Audra says too much humidity can bring mold, mildew, or water damage. Too little can make materials brittle.
You're aiming neither for the rainforest nor for the Sahara in terms of the conditions, but sort of comfortable living conditions for us. It's called the grandma rule. If the conditions are ones you wouldn't leave your grandmother in, don't leave your important family materials in them either.
Not all visitors are interested in items for their historical value.
Mice or various types of insects are happy to chew away at paper. It's another good reason to keep things kind of inside the house rather than, say, off in a garage or an attic where those types of pests might have more access to things.
She shares advice for anyone looking to guard mom's antiques from father time.
An antique quilt, for example, or for pictures on the wall, think about ways that you could minimize the amount of, say, direct sunlight, especially that they're getting. Throw a sheet over the quilt when no one's using the room. Think about closing blinds or pulling curtains if a certain wall that you've got important photos on happens to get a lot of sunlight in the afternoon. Tape is not your friend for long-term preservation. As you have a document that's falling apart or a photograph that's falling apart, try and encapsulate it in plastic where it's not actually stuck to anything. Just because adhesive breaks down over time. This is acid-free tissue paper, so that's one thing that we can do to help preserve materials. If you have acidic materials that you're keeping them in, that acid can sort of leach out over time into whatever's kept in the box.
Audra says she hopes generations in the future learn the value of salvaging the past.
Just as individuals, as families, as communities, isn't it more interesting to know the story of where you came from and how you got where you are now? To me, at least, that's definitely a thing I want to know. You know, those stories of our lives, and so I see that as our job here, is to preserve those stories and to help other people learn how to preserve their family story or their story. We need to have the stuff in order to be able to really know either those stories or to learn those lessons or whatever your need for learning from the past is. We can't do everything here either. We can't take everything. We can't preserve everything. So the more that we all as a community get involved in that process, the more we will have moving forward into the future.
Audra says the Historical Society has been lucky not to have to deal with any pests so far. To help in the preservation process, an Adopt an Artifact program offers those who donate information about an item and the ability to come take a look at it at the Historical Society. For more information, visit their website or stop by the center in Anoka.